in the end.
By 2001, Sega found itself in a very peculiar position. The Dreamcast had finally dreamed its last dream upon discontinuation in March 2001. Years of bad things led up to this. The failure of the 32X, the cancellation of the Sega Pluto, what would have been a standalone 32X and probably the better thing to do, the infighting between Sega of America and Sega of Japan leading to the underperformance of the Saturn in the West, and it all eroded the trust of Sega in the console space, especially when compared how much the Saturn sold against the N64 and PlayStation for the 5th generation. Even though the Dreamcast righted the wrongs of the Saturn, it was not enough to save the console division. It didn't help that some major third parties like EA didn't support it, which itself led to the creation of Sega's own 2K Sports series, and it was all over once the PlayStation 2 came out. That made it more difficult for Sega to achieve its financial goals to stay in the console business. With that, Sega's console run was over and they were now officially a third-party company. Well, with many games in the works planned for the Dreamcast, both sequels and original ideas, many of them now had to find new homes. Fortunately, many of them would find a home in the one console whose manufacturer rose to take Sega's place. Given how many considered the Xbox the spiritual successor of the Dreamcast, with the controller design being similar, online play, Sega support for the console regarding both third-party games and exclusives, many being sequels to Dreamcast games like Jet Set Radio Future, and even games as well that were originally planned for the Dreamcast finding their way to the Xbox like Gun Valkyrie and Toe Jam and Earl 3, I guess it's no surprise that the next Crazy Taxi game would find its way there. Development pre-planning probably started sometime in late 2001 if I had to guess, but it wasn't until early 2002 when Sega officially announced Crazy Taxi 3 was in full development. Not much was revealed at that point other than the game itself was said to have new characters, gameplay modes, mini-games, and hidden courses. I put that in air quotes because, spoiler alert, there are none. Sega actually wanted to make this entry the most ambitious entry in the series up to this point. The game was actually originally announced as Crazy Taxi Next. Next, X as in Xbox, Next Gen, you get the point. They had touted online multiplayer and a day/night cycle. Each cycle would also have different passengers and destinations, and this would happen in the main maps from the first two games. Much of that was dropped from the final game, though the nighttime stuff would show itself in two maps still. The game was officially unveiled in spring 2002. A new map, new cabbies, and returning features would define this entry. The game was 40% complete at this point and set for a summer 2002 Japan release. The game was eventually announced to show up at E3 2002, and it did. It looked to contain improvements to familiar places and some brand new ones. Beyond the usual improvements that come with a new console generation, the game looked ready for action. Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller first released on the Xbox on July 23, 2002 for North America, 2 days later for Japan, and September 20th, 2002 for PAL regions. An arcade release titled Crazy Taxi High Roller came out in 2003, and this release ran on the Sega Chihiro board, which essentially is Xbox arcade hardware. And the game eventually came to PC in Japan on February 26, 2004, and a general 2004 release for Europe. Crazy Taxi 3 probably is the best mix of old and new in the entire series that not only introduces the new stuff well, it keeps what made the original game so fun and addicting. Let's take a look. You can probably see where this is going. There's 3 sections in Crazy Taxi 3, and 3 of them are just the same game type set on a different map, at least for the main stuff. Returning from the previous games are the West Coast and Small Apple maps from the first and second game respectively. There is one new map here, that being Glitter Oasis. Once again, you have 3, 5, or 10 minutes, or you can play by traditional arcade rules, which will reward you with bonus time for making it on time or very fast. So yeah, if you play the first, you'll pick it up. There's also the Crazy X mode, which is the third reworking of Crazy Box mode. You can tell that it's probably called Crazy X because not only how the challenges are arranged in a way similar to the giant X on an Xbox, but yeah, Xbox, 12 easy challenges, 10 normal, and 3 hard challenges. Many of these are similar to challenges seen in the past games. Some of them have been reworked, and others are brand new here. All in all, there's 27 challenges for you to complete. Wait, 27 here. 22, and add the 3. More like 25. I must have miscounted. Oh well, but there's about that many here for you to complete. It does feel more like quantity over quality, though, since some of them do feel similar in how you approach them. Lots of ones that use hopping, drifting, drift hopping, etc. This is probably the weakest out of all the Crazy Box modes in the series, but it will still get you ready to play the main game. Once that's done, pick a city, select the driver, and get ready to make some real dough, High Roller. The same cabbies from the West Coast come back to where it all started for them. Axel, Beatty Joe, Gina, and Gus. Same for the Small Apple cabbies. Slash, Iceman, Cinnamon, and Hot D. Glitter Oasis brings a whole new set of cabbies. Flying High Roller and Life of the Party Angel, Slick and Cool Speed Demon Big Spite, Funky Big Mama Miss Venus, or Mrs. Venus I mean, and Cool and Tough Guy Mechanic Zax. Pick a cabbie and head off. Crazy Taxi 3 pretty much follows the same format as the past 2 games. Pick up fares and drop them off at their destinations. It's actually closer to Crazy Taxi 2 than 1 thanks to the appearance of the Crazy Hop and groups of passengers to be picked up. There's a lot more variety to the groups you can pick up, and they depend on the map you select. In the West Coast, you can find baseball players, bodybuilders, and a marching band among many others. For the Small Apple, football players, mascots, and karate masters. For Glitter Oasis, orchestras, boxers, and rocket dancers. And those are just the ones the manual mentions. As you keep exploring the maps, you're going to find a lot more. This actually leads me to another point about the returning maps. To account for the Crazy Hop, at least the West Coast map has undergone a bit of a redesign here. What I mean is that there are new locations to visit and even more secret areas to access. Find higher paying fares in these areas. And one of the big new additions in the West Coast map includes a new half-unfinished freeway that you can jump onto, hopping off the main freeway you can take, and then jumping up to that unfinished point, which kind of explains the redesigns here. And if you go through the other side, essentially, it will take you to the Westgate Mall entrance. And little things like that will keep players on their toes and give returning players something new to look over. Even the Small Apple has a new addition to the map that resembles Times Square, with all sorts of lighted up signs and the like, which probably is one of the reasons why it now takes place at night. The map also doesn't feel as confusing as before and is better to play here than in Crazy Taxi 2. Which finally leads us to the last map and newest one, Glitter Oasis. This map is essentially a mix of Las Vegas and even parts of Arizona, since there are a lot of other canyon areas in the map that are further away from the city. There's even an area that I'm pretty sure resembles Lake Havasu to a degree. When you're in the city, you've got bright lights, shopping areas, and it's only like a third of the overall map. Which may or may not be to your detriment, because out of every map in the series, this one is the most maze-like out of them all. More often than not, the city only acts as a hub here. Unlike the other maps we've seen up to this point, which so far are more like a circle in their design, a very big one, this is more like different endpoints. The city is a hub here, the center of it, I guess. And then on one side, you've got the canyon areas, and then on the other side, you've got the lake areas and the like here. And ultimately, yeah, I don't know if this is quite as effective as well for making the rounds, if you will. There's a reason that term exists, but you're not going to find it in Glitter Oasis. Not to mention, some of the canyon areas just take a lot to get up from, but they can only take one mistake to fall down. And this can mess with your run, since if you make a mistake, it's more costly here. Granted, you can probably get a better feel for the map with more practice, but this is probably the hardest map to master in this series, well aside from the Crazy Taxi 2 maps. I think veteran players will probably adapt quicker than beginner players. Beginners just start with the West Coast, then move to Small Apple, then here. This isn't a bad map per se, it's just more difficult. In general, I really don't have much else to say about the gameplay that I already haven't said in the past two games reviews. Crazy Taxi 3 pretty much feels like a best of 1 and 2 plus some new additions. The saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, very much applies here. It's still easy to pick up and play, difficult to master, has plenty to explore, and you can really get a lot of mileage out of the game if you're a pro. Once again, controls take utmost priority for this game. I'd say the way the handling feels here is closer to Crazy Taxi 2 than 1. It's much easier to do drifts and things like that. Though, in that regard, it doesn't feel as tight as the original game. Still, all the inputs do work as they should. The PC version has more flexibility with keyboard mappings and the like, though the input is not as smooth as a controller. Still, if you want to use a controller, you'll have to use a patch for the PC version to get your controller fully working. Once you do, though, it's probably the best way to play it. The Xbox version once again comes with two controller configurations. One for using the trigger buttons for braking and accelerating, with face buttons used for shifting. And the other one uses the triggers for shift from reverse to drive and the face buttons to accelerate and brake, and Y once again is always Crazy Hop. It's pretty much the same scheme as Crazy Taxi 2, but with an Xbox controller. Playing this with an S controller is preferable to a Duke, though some of you may prefer one way over the other. Not sure how a racing wheel would work here since I never had the chance to test it. And if you're not very comfortable with the original controller scheme here, or you have one that doesn't work the best because the pressure-sensitive buttons on the Xbox and stuff are a thing, yeah, you might be better off just getting a Brookman wing adapter and just using a modern controller that way so you can play better. Still, the controls work as they should, and you'll pick them up very easily. The graphics definitely take advantage of the Xbox well, and it gives us the best looking Crazy Taxi game in the entire series. You thought the Dreamcast was cutting edge? You ain't seen nothing yet. Buildings are way more enhanced texture-wise than the past versions. Smooth. Car models also look nice and shiny. Color range in general also looks pretty good. Each area is represented well. Bright sunny skies and the like for the West Coast, Small Apple nice and lit up at night, same with Glitter Oasis, and each area does have appropriate lighting to match. But maybe a little too much in some instances. It almost does look like there's some serious motion blur going on, and there's no way to turn it off. While draw distance is better here than the last two games, the frame rate on the Xbox due to the excessive lighting can take a bit of a hit, even though it does run at 60 FPS. The PC version by default only runs at 30 FPS, but can be patched to run at its native 60 and looks very well. Not to mention, it runs very smooth as well, and I didn't notice any major issues. Customer models here also look smoother than the last two games. There's also just more variety here, not just with the groups, but the singles. No reuse/derivative looking models here, at least not that I could see. Other texture details look more refined and well modeled, with maybe very little exceptions, and the game just looks good as hell here. Even NPC cars look better. There are even nicer little effects like small flames for dashing, drifting, and hopping, so you really know especially if you're pulling them off. A YouTube compression isn't doing this footage any favors, but it looks better when you see it away from this, especially with the PC patch. My only real complaint with the graphics is the reusage of some stuff from past games, like objects you can hit, dirt/sand, and things like that, but that's a very, very minor complaint that doesn't impact this. It's a very nice looking game on the whole, and if you wanted to get this game to show off the power of the Xbox, I wouldn't talk you out of it. The sound is also very good here. The music once again takes center stage, though it's only limited to one band per level. For the West Coast, Offspring. All I Want from Ixnay on the Hombre, No Breaks from Americana, and Want You Bad from Conspiracy of One, with this one being brand new to the series, as All I Want was in the first game and No Breaks was in the second game. For the Small Apple, Bad Religion. Only 10 in 2010 returns. It's kind of jarring to hear it here and not in the West Coast from the past games, with Punk Rock Song and Empty Causes rounding out the rest, all three from the Grey Race. For Glitter Oasis, Swedish rock band Silver Bullet. All three songs come from their self-titled debut album, Raw Power Angel, Boom Boom Boogie, and King of the Line. I'm not sure who on the development staff was listening to this band, the point of wanting to include them here, but whoever did, I'm glad they did, because oh boy, these tracks go hard, especially the opening drum bit on King of the Line. It just gets you pumped up to keep playing, you know. And as for the menus, the opening loop of Offspring Special Delivery from Conspiracy of One is the menu theme. For the character selects themes, West Coast once again has the opening loop of Hear It, Small Apple has the loop of Who the Hell Cares, and Glitter Oasis has the opening loop of Ignition by Brian Setzer 68 Comeback Special. For credits themes, Inner Logic for the West Coast, Crash for Small Apple, and Hot Rod Girl by Brian Setzer for Glitter Oasis, which is actually a very more fitting that those two tracks, the Brian Setzer tracks, were used in the Glitter Oasis parts. I don't think I need to say any more about this soundtrack other than it rocks. Sound effects are fun, but they are reused from past games. Though once again, we've got some new voice acting, and again, this is mainly with the newer cabbies. I won't recap for the past cabbies since all of that voice acting is recycled from Crazy Taxi 2. The voice acting here for the newer cabbies are good. They each fit the personality/looks of the cabbies well, but I don't know if they're quite as memorable as the ones from the previous games. The customer voice acting here is also mostly new with some recycled bits, though if you really want to hear it all, you might have to adjust the audio levels in-game. I don't think it's quite as good as what was heard before, but it works fine enough. In terms of replayability, clear the first set of Crazy X challenges for city maps. Clear the second set to unlock the bike, stroller, and horse carriage vehicles to use. Clear the third set to unlock another day mode for each map. This mode sets a different start point and rearranges the location of the passengers, and replaces all the groups with aliens for some reason. Clear all challenges and you'll be able to use any cabbie on any map you want. There's also a free record mode called Crazy Drivin'. You can choose which portion of any map you want to be at, choose how long you want to go for, 3, 5, or 10 minutes, which car you want, and which cabbie you want. Then, after you complete your run, you can save the replay to watch later just for fun. Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller feels like Crazy Taxi 1 plus 2, but not fully, plus an expansion of new stuff. It looks good, sounds good, controls well, gives a slight rework of fan favorite maps to keep returning vets on their toes. It has plenty of content to keep you coming back, and by and large, it's just good old-fashioned Crazy Taxi fun. However, Glitter Oasis is not as strong as past maps in the series have been. Crazy X seems more quantity over quality, and I do feel like this was the point where the series was kind of starting to wear out its welcome. I mean, how many times can you do the same game before it gets old? Well, for some of us, we can never get enough, especially the Japanese, because this game actually was a part of the Platinum Hits line for the Xbox in Japan. Die-hard fans and newcomers, go lose yourself in the game. I know I did multiple times. I'll always especially remember the good times when I first tried this game out at Toys R Us in the early 2000s, and then reading about Crazy Taxi 2 in Game Informer in 2006 circa PS3 launch. But really the best memory I have with this game is getting it as an Easter basket gift in 2007, along with Avatar: The Last Airbender and AMF Extreme Bowling. If someone ever asked me what was the best thing I received for Easter, I would say it's this game right here. I give Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller a 4.5 out of 5. That may tackle the series for now, but really it's all been building up to tackle an impersonator. Looks like we'll be going to Springfield soon. Stay tuned! Thanks for watching. Click subscribe below and check out the playlist on screen for more content. To help support the show beyond the usual means, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi on the link tree in the description. And come by my Twitch where I conquer my backlog one game at a time. See you in the next video!